Kevin McCormick, Sixers contributor to 97.3 ESPN.com. Sports Illustrated. We got a lot of Sixers stuff today. The summer Sixers get underway at 4 o'clock. We'll have a little bit more on that. A couple guys to keep an eye on. But McCormick, on a day where we were going to get into a couple of the young guys, it is a deja vu all over again here. Ben Simmons videos are starting to get out there. It's like the rite of summer, man. It feels like that, it's a rite of passage to slip out a Ben Simmons three-point shooting video. And here we go again with him with a beautiful stroke, making the three after three after three.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's how you know we're in the peak days of the offseason. We've hit the point where Ben Simmons workout videos are starting to surface. We've seen multiple ones. And, I mean, in terms of them being enticing, until we start shooting them in the games, it's kind of hard to get excited about these videos anymore. We've seen them for the past 3 years now. Me personally, I watched them warm up with Sam Cassell before every home game. Until it translates to the game, I mean, it's just another video to me.
Absolutely. Here's the problem. It's a waste of time. I mean, look, I don't mind that he's out there shooting the three, but it's like if you're not going to utilize that in a game, utilize the time doing something else, getting better at something else. If he puts out a video of him at the free throw line shooting for an hour, that's different. But we've seen this video, and he's not utilizing this skill in a game. So this is however long he put into this, that is a wasted opportunity to get better at the thing he really needs to get better at. Because, quite frankly, we know he can shoot. He chooses not to.
I could agree to that. The only counterpoint I would say is all this time putting into it behind the scenes could lead to an added comfort to him, maybe wanting to do it more in games. But I agree. Some different videos I would like to see personally is, like you said, him improving at the free throw line, him working in the post. That's something Doc Rivers talked about a lot last season, that I feel like that's a part of his game that you can utilize him more, all over the floor as a facilitator, as a scorer. I think he's looked a lot more comfortable in the post. Even early on last season, he looked like that element of his game was growing. So I wouldn't say it's a complete waste, but I agree. There definitely could be different area of his game to where even if he still shows that he doesn't want to shoot from the outside, that time could be put into other places to improve his game and help round out his offensive skill set.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he shoots comes out and shoots threes, he goes back and says, hey, look, I told you I was working. I mean, does the fact that he's working with Rondo do anything for you?
I don't know. I actually think it's kind of interesting because all last year when Doc Rivers would talk about his past teams, Rondo was actually a guy he brought up a lot. So I just thought that kind of connection was funny, that it's someone that Doc Rivers thinks highly of. Maybe that has something to do with it, that, maybe Doc talked to Rondo about working with Ben, but I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of he's there with other players. I mean, these trainers all work with all different kinds of NBA clients, so I'm not really caught up in who's around him while he's working.
Yeah, I mean, the whole fact that Rondo is a veteran player who is not noted as a good three-point shooter, because we've seen Simmons working by himself in the past. Maybe it's the fact that he is saying, all right, I'm going to work with a veteran guy. Maybe that'll give him more confidence. That's the only positive that I could possibly see. But again, I don't care that he's shooting threes. I'm not sitting here saying, let's get excited about these videos until he utilizes that skill set in a game. To me, this is more wasting summer time to get better at a skill that he could be getting better at, which is shooting free throws.
Absolutely. And maybe the Rondo thing, one thing you could tie to it is Rondo's another one who was, could be reluctant at times because shooting wasn't his, biggest facet of his game either. So maybe just him being around and talking with him and talking through that could lead to, Ben having a breakthrough and possibly getting through whatever wall is in his head and trying to at least attempt threes in games next season.
All right, the Summer Sixers are underway today. Give us a couple of guys that the fans should have their eyes on in these particular games.
I'd honestly say almost all of them, as crazy as it sounds, for different reasons. For starters, Tyrese Maxey should be the one that everyone has circled, bolded, underlined. I mean, if there's someone you want to see on this squad, it should be Tyrese Maxey. We saw how great he looked in the postseason and towards the end of last year. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to look like the best player on the floor come 4 o'clock when that game begins. But I want to see how Tyrese Maxey can grow as a playmaker, because if you look at the Sixers roster right now, it's pretty much filled to completion in terms of roster spots. And looking at the depth chart, Tyrese Maxey's realistically the point guard behind Ben Simmons. Daryl Morey said at the end of last year that they see a bigger role for Tyrese Maxey moving forward. So I want to see how Tyrese Maxey runs an offense, not only getting himself going, but getting the guys around him involved, because it realistically looks like he's going to be that full-time backup point guard, potentially sixth man for the Sixers. And then there's a lot of guys that could be vying for rotation spots throughout the year. You look at an Isaiah Joe who could compete with Furkan Korkmaz for rotation minutes. You know, how does his body look after a year of off-season training? How does the shot look? His defense improved. Paul Reed, someone who looked great in the G League, didn't really get much time after that. How has he grown as well? Can he take that next step? Can you potentially utilize him as a small ball five and give the Sixers more optionality in the front court going, further into the year? And then Charles Bassey, the second-round pick, he's someone I'm very excited for. I think he has a lot of potential as that kind of third center on the roster, potentially a stretch big. I want to see how he does running the floor. How's he working the pick and roll? Can he roll hard? Can he catch lobs above the rim? And then can he space the floor? Because that is something that Andre Drummond cannot do. So if there's spacing issues that we saw last year are still a thing, that is an avenue for Charles Bassey to get himself minutes on the Sixers next season.
Yeah, and Paul Reed, I guess, is another guy, too, who I guess I want to see if he can stretch out and shoot the three. He did it in the G League. He did not do it at the NBA level. So he would be those two guys, Bassey and Reed, I think could almost be challenging each other for some rotational minutes.
Absolutely. And they give the Sixers a lot more optionality so that they could be guys that see a lot more minutes. I personally would like to see how Paul Reed plays alongside another big. When you look at his college tape and you look at the way the Bluecoats utilized him in the G League, they pretty much used him at the five. And I feel like at the NBA level, he's most likely going to be a four, maybe an athletic small ball five. But like you said, if he can space the floor, that also paves him a way to get on the floor. We saw the Georges Niang signing. The backup power forward position is going to be something that's going to be in competition in training camp. I don't feel like it's going to be handed right to Niang. If Paul Reed impresses and shows that he can defend and be athletic and stretch the floor, he could potentially be the backup to Tobias Harris as well. So I agree. This could be the start of a lot of competitions that we're going to see through camp for roles.
Yeah, I know that one guy who's interesting is Isaiah Joe. He's another guy. I mean, he could pull up from all over the place, but can he show consistency in a catch and shoot? Can he create a little bit of a shot? I mean, you just signed Furkan Korkmaz. You would think that, he would be in kind of competition for minutes with Korkmaz, but if you just give Korkmaz that contract, where does he find a role if he impresses?
He could just be another added shooter that you bring off the bench. I think when you look at Isaiah Joe's archetype, he is almost tailor-made to the 3-and-D type of player that we see in the NBA right now. And as we know, those type of guys are worth their weight in gold. I think the main thing with Isaiah Joe was he didn't really have the NBA-ready frame. I think he has the defensive fundamentals. He has long arms. Like you said, he can get a shot off from anywhere. The consistency is going to be the big thing for him. So I think he's going to be one of those guys where if he gets hot at the right time and he impresses, that is going to be his way to work in, because we know Furkan Korkmaz isn't the strongest of defenders. I would say in terms of defensive fundamentals, I'd take Isaiah Joe over Furkan Korkmaz right now. So if the shot looks great and he can show that he can hang against NBA athletes, we could potentially see Isaiah Joe be a regular guy. I mean, when you look at all these young guys on the Sixers roster, a lot of them are upperclassmen. So these are guys that are 22, 23, 24 years old. They can come in and give minutes right now. It's not like a Jaden Springer situation where he's only 18. So if these guys can impress, they're all pretty much in that same age range off the bench. So I feel like any spot is essentially up for grabs for who impresses.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, too, about Springer, the first-round pick this year. You almost have less anticipation for him than you do the second-round pick, Charles Bassey, and some of the guys from last year in the second round.
I would say that's mainly just because of the age thing. When you take a guy at 18 years old, you know it's going to be a project. He's someone that they see the long-term goal in. I don't think he's going to be someone that's going to be competing for minutes on day one. Although defensively, I think he will be able to hang. I feel like the big step for Jaden Springer in year one is going to be assimilating him on the offensive side of the floor, which is something that could work well in a summer league situation where he's going against prospects more in his own range and not going against other NBA talent. Daryl Morey sees 3-and-D potential in him, so maybe that's something they try to work with in year one. Maybe we see him used today in a lot of off-ball action, using him as a cutter, letting him attack the basket, something he did well in college, and show off that strong athleticism. But I wouldn't say I'm less excited for Jaden Springer. I just feel like there's more guys on the Summer League roster that are going to give you more kind of immediate results in terms of next season than a Jaden Springer would.
Yeah, is there anybody else that wasn't a draft choice that's on this roster that has a shot to not only make the team or make the team, and contribute in some way?
Maybe Aaron Henry, the guy they signed to a two-way contract right at the end of the draft. I feel like he gives a lot of that two-way physical defender potential that Matisse Thybulle shows. So I could definitely see him towards the end of the year if he impresses to get a converted contract. Deshaun Nix, someone they signed to their summer league team who played for G League Ignite last year. I think he's someone who could potentially get a deal and play in Delaware next year. I think he's another enticing talent, but it's going to be tough. There's little roles to go around, so it's going to be a lot of competition between these young guys. But I would say, yeah, maybe Aaron Henry is kind of that dark horse guy that could impress in the summer league and maybe be someone that fans get excited about next season.
Well, a lot of this, as you kind of topped off, McCormick, is Maxey. I mean, Maxey, he could be one of those guys that just could impress so much that they don't even need to see more. And he might play one or two games and they say, all right, you're way over the talent level. That's almost what you're hoping for here, is that he is just way more advanced than some of these guys he's going up against, that the Sixers don't even want to see him play the full schedule.
Exactly. You don't want to see Tyrese Maxey get extended minutes in the summer league because you saw him get extended minutes in the postseason the year prior. The summer league isn't essentially for players like him. I think it's more of just you want to knock the rust off. You want to get him in a live setting and just kind of see what you have.
Yeah, and the fact that he didn't get any summer league play last year either. He kind of talked about that. He wishes he had that.
Exactly. And listen, at the end of the day, he's a competitor. He's a gym rat. I think part of it is he wants to be out there as well. He wants to show what he can do and kind of show off all his offseason work. So I agree. I don't think we should need to see much of Tyrese Maxey. And when he's out there, he should look like the top guy on the floor.
Yeah, I know, summer league is what it is. It's not like guys are winning rotational spots here, but I think it's a gateway to impressing, when they get to training camp, because as Daryl Morey has said, he thinks Maxey, now Thybulle's not playing in the summer league. He's now going into his third year, but that he thinks there are pieces on the current roster that will have bigger roles next year. Now, did you happen to catch Morey respond to Pompey's article on Twitter the other day?
No, I did not see that. What did he say?
Basically, Pompey wrote an article saying that teams in the East have kind of passed the Sixers, and Morey responds with the Vegas odds that the Sixers still have the third best odds in the Eastern Conference. I mean, is that at least it wasn't a burner account, I guess, right?
Listen, Daryl Morey is never one to shy away from getting his point across. Similar to when after the news broke of Danny Green re-signing, and he posted the best five-man lineups in terms of point differential, and the Sixers starting lineup was the top one. So, he loves to play the chess game on social media, and he should be confident about this team. I mean, while the postseason didn't go well, they still finished atop the Eastern Conference after finishing sixth the year before. Like you just said, there's a lot of nice, enticing young pieces off this bench. A Matisse Thybulle, someone who just was named to an all-defensive team, coming off the bench, only playing 20 minutes a night. Tyrese Maxey, who shined for you in the postseason at just 19, 20 years old. So I agree. I mean, the East definitely has gotten better, but in terms of multiple teams jumping them, I don't know if I'm ready to say that just yet.
Yeah, it was a article that Pompey wrote. The Daily News site tweeted it out, to which Morey said, much work to do, but absolute nonsense on us not putting ourselves in a better position than most in the East. And then he has a screenshot of the futures odds, the Nets plus 1,500, the Bucks plus 400, and the Sixers plus 750. So he's basically saying, hey, we still have the third best odds, so I guess these other teams haven't surpassed us just yet.
Yeah, and you also need to account for the fact that the Sixers might not be done. As we know, the talk of the offseason has been Ben Simmons and what's going to happen from him. I think now that the Summer Olympics are wrapping up and Team USA is coming back home, that the Damian Lillard rumor mill is going to start heating up again, and we could potentially see those sweepstakes. And if that comes about, we could see a drastic upgrade among the Sixers. But like I said, the East has definitely gotten better, but I think the Sixers are still a tier one team and might not be on the same level as a Milwaukee or Brooklyn, but they are not far behind, to say the least.
What did you think? Obviously, I think Drummond spoke when? Friday? Is that when he talked? Friday?
Yeah, it was. No, I think it was Thursday, and then George Niang spoke on Friday.
All right. So what is your take on those two additions and how they kind of fit in? Drummond, I think, was he talking, maybe he told you that he really wanted to play for Doc, and that was one of the big reasons, because he's going to take a lesser role to come here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was something he said during his media availability that playing for Doc Rivers is something that played a role in him coming here. Same with Niang. He also said that after speaking with Doc Rivers and Doc talking about his game and how he thinks he could fit in here in Philadelphia, that kind of swayed him as well. But for Drummond, I thought he showed extreme maturity. Like you said, he's willing to come here to take a lesser role, still in the prime years of his career. He's right around Embiid in age. He's only 27 years old. As crazy as that sounds, he's someone that pretty much from his second year in the league has started in just about every game he's appeared in, and now he's coming to play behind a Joel Embiid. And he seems to have taken it gracefully, very similar to Dwight Howard. He understands the situation here. He knows that Joel Embiid is the franchise cornerstone, and he wants to add to that and doesn't really want to, throw a wrench in things in the locker room.
Yeah, Drummond in. You wonder what's his role, how many minutes does he get, I guess. I mean, the big thing, the big question I have with this, Kevin, which is, okay, he's an all-star player if Embiid is hurt. The problem is you can't play him and Ben Simmons together.
Yeah, there's going to be wrinkles. Hopefully, Doc Rivers will be able to counter that a little better after seeing how things went last season. I think with the different pieces you have now, it might make it a little easier. I know that Niang isn't necessarily a flashy name to say the least, but I truly think his presence in that second unit, and same with Matisse Thybulle, if he can continue to grow as a three-point shooter, that if you can get those proper pieces around them and mix around with the rotations, that that big issue of last year might not be as devastating as it was. It could still cause concern, but I don't see it being a major issue.
I'm interested to see if Isaiah Joe comes out and just shows another level to his game. Does that make Shake Milton a guy that they feel comfortable trading?
That's tough because I feel like
because you got Maxey.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, Shake Milton still provides a playmaker, someone that could put the ball on the floor and create for himself as well. So while Isaiah Joe is more your spot up, he's going to come off screens, catch and shoot kind of guy. So I don't know if he'd necessarily make Shake Milton expendable, but he could be a guy that slides down the bench if a guy like Isaiah Joe shoots the lights out in Summer League.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, he shot 36%. He might be able to be more consistent, but does he show an added layer to his game? Does he put the ball on the floor? Does he get himself to the basket in some of these summer games that makes him say, all right, let's see him and Milton go at it in training camp and see if he is really at it. That's why that's some of the things that because before you thought, all right, if they let Korkmaz walk, Joe would kind of be able to take that role, but they bring Korkmaz back at that money. I don't see Joe pushing him out of the rotation. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I feel like the bigger competition could be between Korkmaz and Milton, because last year I think Furkan Korkmaz showed great strides as being a secondary ball handler, or someone that can operate in the dribble handoff and put the ball on the floor a little more than we were accustomed to seeing. So if another secondary ball handler appears, whether it be Korkmaz or Isaiah Joe, like you said, if you were to take a major step, I could see Shake Milton being the guy that's on the outside looking in. Like I said, there's so many playable guys that could essentially appear by the end of Summer League and the start of training camp, that the rotation, it's not really going to be set in stone. I think those first couple of weeks we could see some serious, quiet competitions and guys fading in and out depending on how they play.
All right, that all starts at 4 o'clock today. The Sixers Summer League team, which, by the way, they're like a 4-point favorite. I think you should bet that heavy. Dallas's summer roster is awful. I mean, the Sixers have guys in the rotation.
Yeah, listen, do not be shocked if the Sixers win the Summer League championship. I'll just say that. I think their roster is extremely fun.
Right, well, if they're going to play, if they play Maxey and Reed all the way through, right, they got two guys that might be in a rotation this coming. Plus, they've got Bassey, who I think could possibly get in the rotation. I mean, Dallas's roster is awful. They have this, and I said, what's the spread on this game? 4.5. Holy mackerel! The Sixers win by 20 today. There you go. There's a bet for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like an easy cover.
All right, at Kevin MCC NBA. Check his stuff out over at 97.3 ESPN.com on the Post Sixers today, plus over at Sports Illustrated for more, and of course all off season right here on the Sports Bash. All right, McCormick, I'll talk to you, brother.
I'll talk to you, Gil. Have a good one.
All right, that's Kevin McCormick, our Sixers contributor from 97.3 ESPN.com.